Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is Locked Up Sports. Welcome to the show. Big show for you here today as we look back at Week 18, back at Black Monday in the NFL, and ahead to Wildcard Weekend, which starts on Saturday with some good matchups. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Remember, you could always find us at lockedupsports.net, as well as anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Anytime you can catch up on any episodes, but thank you for tuning in today. Big show for you here today, and let's start with the Giants, and they have decided, John Mara has decided to keep his team of Schoen and Daboll together for one more year. Listen, I think this is a terrible mistake. I think he doesn't know how to read the room, because the fans clearly want Daboll gone. They're flying airplanes over the building, telling you they want him gone. They're wearing bags over their heads. And if you just look on the field, the team was 3-14. 3-14. They were non-competitive in many games. There were many games where they weren't ready to play. And for some reason, he could still live off a 9-7 playoff year 2 years ago. I mean, listen, 9-7, that year was good. They won a playoff game. I get it. They won a road playoff game. But they weren't 13-3 or 13-4. They were 9-7. Yes, the playoff game, the win in Minnesota was excellent. And that's something good for Daboll's, resume. But you can't bring this coach back. I don't know. I don't know what his thinking is. I think John Mara deserves much more criticism than he gets. I think he gets let off the hook because Woody Johnson is down the hall, who's just another complete disaster. But I think John Mara deserves much more criticism than he gets. He's completely lost with this franchise and with this coach. For some reason, and he was lost with the quarterback. He was lost with Barkley. But in the last couple of years, it has been bad, real bad. The Giants were possibly the worst team in the NFL this year. They somehow put together 42 points 2 weeks ago against Indianapolis, which I still don't know where that came from. And I blame Indianapolis just as much as I give credit to the Giants for that. But to run it back with this coach and this GM, and it sounds like what they want. It sounds like what they want is he wants playoffs next year. And you know what that's going to do? That's going to make the GM go out and spend wildly and do everything he can to keep his job, to make the playoffs and sacrifice the future. And it's just, it doesn't work that way. Now, I don't see how the Giants make the playoffs next year. I don't see how they go from having no quarterback, being 3-14, being the worst team in the NFL, to a playoff team in 1 year. I don't see it happening. This team is terrible. They have a good wide receiver. Their Neighbors is a staple. He is a piece that you could use that going forward to build around. But you don't even have a quarterback to throw to him. You don't even have kickers. The Giants are a mess in every aspect. And now, because they won that game 2 weeks ago, they don't get the first pick. They're in the third pick. And listen, there's no good quarterback. There's no real can't-miss quarterbacks in this draft. Now, that's not saying that there won't be a great one coming out. There might be. We don't know. You have no idea when it comes to quarterbacks and when it comes to prospects and draft picks. You know it. Nobody has any idea. And what's even worse is these mock drafts. 5 minutes after the game was over, there's mock drafts out, and I can't deal with the mock drafts. I don't pay attention to any of them. There'll be hundreds and thousands of them over the next couple months. I wouldn't pay attention to any of them. And the fact that he keeps his job and he's going to get to make a decision, Joe Schoen's going to get to make a decision that's going to possibly affect this franchise for the next 10 to 15 years, I wouldn't let him do it. I think it's a huge mistake. I think a huge miss by John Mara, a huge miss by the Giants. I think they should have went out, they got rid of the coach, just started over. So Mara came out, and it's statement from the Giants president, John Mara. Now that the season is over, we felt it necessary to make this statement. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented and their vision for our team. We look forward to the future and achieving the results we desire. You remain confident in the direction of the team. What are you even looking at? This team has gone backwards. Now, you can say they chose the quarterback. They chose Daniel Jones. Joe Schoen gave him a contract extension. And what happened? It fell apart. They gave him a contract extension. They gave him $100 million, all on the basis of a 9-7 season and one playoff win. I'm sorry, but where I come from, that's not good enough for the Giants. That's not good enough. They let Barkley go at a career year. I could live with that. But they looked lost in that whole process with Barkley. Mara didn't want Barkley to go. He let his GM, that's one thing you could say about Mara is he lets his GM do the job. Unlike over down the hall with Woody Johnson. He lets his GM do the job. And they let him walk. And they were lost during that whole process. If you watched Hard Knocks, you saw it. They all had different opinions. They weren't on the same page about anything. They let him go. So I completely disagree with this situation. Daboll is 18-36 in 3 years, one playoff win. And like I said, the year they went to the playoffs, it wasn't a 13-3. It was 9-7. They didn't get a home playoff game. They won a road playoff game, which all the credit in the world. But now you got the number 3 pick. You got possibly the next 10 years. You got the quarterback, the future quarterback of this team, and you're going to put it in the hands of these two guys? I wouldn't do it. And it's not like the fans are clamoring to have him back. John Mara deserves more criticism than he gets in this town. The Giants losing on Sunday to the Eagles, it did help. I mean, but again, they lost to a bunch of third stringers. The win against Indianapolis, that really kind of screwed them out of the number 1 pick. They had no chance going into Sunday for the number 1 pick. So it really didn't matter, but they do get the 3 pick. The Jets are going to be at the 7th pick. And the Jets, they're looking for a whole new operation, right? New GM, new quarterback, new head coach, whole new everything. Because I don't think Rodgers is coming back. And if I think over the last couple of weeks, if you saw and heard Rodgers, he kind of, was spelling it out for you that he knew that he couldn't make the throws that he always could make. He's not the player that he was. He got old. Rodgers got old. And yes, he had a good game. He had a good game on Sunday. He beat Miami. They played well. But those games you used to get every single Sunday, every week from Rodgers. You used to get a game like you got against Miami. 4 touchdowns. I mean, he had 28 touchdowns, 11 picks, which is not terrible. But it's not Rodgers. It's not the Rodgers that the Jets thought they were getting. And I think he's probably gonna walk away and retire. That's what I think. And if you listen to him here, we're gonna play a clip from after the game from his press conference. He just sounds like he sounds like he's leaning that way.
I can't say that it feels much different. It feels like just need to get away and then also see what they're into, what they're thinking, and then take some time for myself.
I think in this game, did you have any time in your head to reflect on how you got to this point, really the totality of your career, or is that more something that you're going to have a chance to do now?
What was the first part of the question?
Have you had a chance to reflect on how you got here?
The game just ended 30 minutes ago, so I had a few hugs in the locker room, a few emotional moments with some people I really care about. But I think it's not great to make emotional decisions about anything in life. So I need some time to step away from this and see how I'm feeling if I want to keep going. And obviously, Jets are going to make the decision they're going to make.
The Jets, I can't imagine the Jets are going to have him back. And you saw he got his 500th touchdown. So he got that. He got the record that he wanted. He could walk away on top. If he goes to another team or even comes back here with the Jets and has another bad season, now you're thinking, now that's 3 seasons. He had an injury out for the season, then bad season. That's going to start to affect his legacy. Now, it's not going to affect the player that he was. He's an all-time great Hall of Famer. That's done. But you don't want to go out on 3 bad years. I think he walks away. I think he got the 500th touchdown. He did what he wanted to. He just looked emotional, a little more emotional leaving the field. I think it's over for Rodgers. And I think the Jets now have to start and looking for a quarterback, a head coach, and a GM. Now, they interviewed Vrabel. Word is with Vrabel that I don't think Vrabel's coming. I don't think anybody really thinks Vrabel's coming. They had the interview, and of course, afterwards, it's all, oh, it went well. It was a great interview. We had a great talk. We like where things are, where we left them with Mike. And listen, he wants to go to New England. And New England firing their coach opens up the position. He's gonna entice. He went to the Jets to interview, basically just to entice New England to not let him go to the Jets, go to the rival in the division. I think Woody Johnson will probably screw this up somehow because he screws everything up. You got Rex, who was dying for the job. The Jets are starting completely over. They can't screw this up, though. They're 14 years without the playoffs. They're one bad coaching pick away from having it be 20. Because you're now looking at 2 more years before you're going to make the playoffs. They have no quarterback. What are you going to do? You're going to bring Sam Darnold back in here? Can't do that. So they're going to have to go and draft a quarterback and just start over. I think they should bring in Rex. Obviously, if somehow Vrabel wants to come in and take Vrabel's number 1. But I don't think Vrabel has any chance that he wants to come and coach the Jets. Why would you? New England has a good young quarterback. He has a lot of potential. It's a team on the kind of on its way back. He's got Bob Kraft, who he's known forever. He's won Super Bowls over there. He's going to go there. He's going to go to New England. And I think everybody knows it. And I think the fact that he even came to try and entice New England by interviewing with the Jets is, it's almost like laughable. So that's where the 2 New York teams stand. They're lost, right? They need miracle draft picks is what they need. And don't pay attention to the mock drafts because none of them know what they're doing. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the draft. It's a couple months away. It's a long way away. Nobody knows. As far as Black Monday in the NFL, a day where coaches get fired, it wasn't as many as I thought there would be. There was, of course, Mayo gone in New England. That was you kind of saw that coming. They beat the Bills, but Mayo is gone in New England. The Cleveland fired their offensive coordinator. Listen, Cleveland they have no maneuverability because Deshaun Watson is taking up half of that salary cap for the next couple of years. Nobody's taking that contract. They could cut him or they could bring him back. You might as well just bring him back because you're not going to be able to afford a different quarterback that's worth anything. They kept the coach. They got rid of the offensive coordinator. Bears, who fired their coach earlier this season after the disaster with the Hail Mary and everything that went on there and the time management and Thanksgiving, they have requested to interview Mike McCarthy. And Jerry Jones is kind of like, he's holding him up. He's saying, you go do what you got to do. There's 1 day left on McCarthy's contract. So as far as what's going on with Dallas and McCarthy, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? That's all still up in the air. Very, very much up in the air. I mean, Jerry Jones is kind of hanging him out to dry. He's kind of like, oh, it's not my decision. You make the decision. But he's only got 1 day left on the contract. So tomorrow he becomes basically nobody's property. Dallas has a 1 week exclusive interview window with him. So I don't know what's going to go on there. I think McCarthy ultimately ends up staying with Dallas. I don't think it's the right move for either McCarthy or for Dallas, but I do think that that's what will happen. I think he ends up staying the coach in Dallas. I think Jones kind of wants him there, but he wants to run. He wants to be in charge. He wants it to be, he just the way he's hanging him out to dry with not giving him a contract or not letting him go yesterday. It's not really right. And once again, Jerry Jones, he just has to be the main focus of the story. And that's what Jerry Jones does. And that's what he's done forever. And that's what he will do as long as he's the owner of the Cowboys. So not a crazy, where one of these Black Mondays where it's 8-9 coaches get fired. And wasn't as crazy as I thought it would be. Daboll keeps his job. Antonio Pierce, as far as he knows, still the coach. And McCarthy is still in Dallas. We knew that Jacksonville was going to make the change. I thought Cleveland might make the change at head coach. They didn't. And New England, with Mayo out, And that's the problem. That's why the Jets need to get somebody who's established. You look at Jared Mayo. That's why the Jets need somebody who's established, because you bring in one of these young coordinators, the hot item off the shelf that everybody wants. He's the new thing. A lot of times it doesn't work. Look at Mayo. He played for New England. Robert Kraft loved him, brought him in. Everybody wanted him. New England got him 1 year and he's gone. Jets can't afford to have that happen. And I think Rex is the guy for the job. I don't think Rex will get the job, but that's where I would go. Of course, unless Vrabel, but Vrabel doesn't want. Vrabel wants to go to New England. So, okay, so as far as on the field stuff, week 18, there wasn't too much left to be decided. In the 1 o'clock window, you had the NFC South was going to be decided. Tampa and New Orleans and Atlanta and Carolina, and both Tampa and Atlanta looked like they wanted no part of winning this division in that first half. Carolina and New Orleans had 10-point leads at the end, in the first half. Tampa Bay was able to come back. They get the win. They didn't look great. I thought Tampa would kind of ride high after 2 weeks ago when Baker had a huge game. They had a blowout win. Atlanta coming off a loss in Washington, an overtime loss. And as far as Atlanta losing in overtime, the season was over already, because Tampa had won as soon as they went into overtime in Carolina. Now, the thing that I was watching that I was fascinated with was Cincinnati, who had won on Saturday. They needed the Jets to win, and they needed Denver to lose. So they needed Miami to lose, and they needed Denver, who was playing against Kansas City, who was playing nobody, to win. And the Jets did their part. Jets played well. But the Broncos did not hold up their end of the bargain, and the Chiefs either. And I was disappointed as a 38-0. Broncos all over the Chiefs. That game was over, right from the start. Disappointed in Carson Wentz, who, had an opportunity here to play well and showcase, maybe get a job somewhere next year, but he did not play well, and they didn't have the talent on the field to compete with Denver, who had everything to play for, the season on the line, a home game, the crowd, and then it just kind of got out of hand. 38-0 was the final there. So that was what happened there. That kind of negated any of the other, with the Jets playing, and Miami saw what was going on, and it's a demoralizing thing. When you're playing a close game against the Jets, you have to win, but you also need help, and you look up at the scoreboard and it's 28-0 Denver. So that's what happened there. And then listen, the Cincinnati has nobody to blame but themselves. I was rooting for them to get in, and the rest of the AFC should be rather happy that Cincinnati did not get in, because they could have done damage in the playoffs if they were to sneak in, and they're playing well, 5 in a row, but 0-3 to start the season, and you don't dig out of 0-3 holes. And this is just, and I told you as soon as they went 0-3, that you don't dig out of 0-3 holes and make the playoffs. And this team, they came as close as you can do it without making the playoffs, but once again, they didn't do it. They're just, it's just another 0-3 team that didn't make the playoffs. Then the Sunday night game, the highly anticipated Lions and Vikings for the number 1 seed, for the number 1 overall in the NFC, for the bye, the home field, the road to the Super Bowl goes through your city, and the Vikings just didn't show up. I'll tell you what, give the Lions credit. They laid a thrashing on the Vikings. Sam Darnold did not play well. All right, the Lions got to him. They hit him. They made him uncomfortable, and he didn't play well. They couldn't put the ball in the end zone. They got in the red zone a couple times, settled for field goals. Lions got into the red zone and went for it. The Lions again making highly aggressive. Going for it early in the game in their own territory, 4th and 1. Listen, that's what they're gonna do. It's not a question anymore. That's what they're gonna do, and give them credit too. Late in the game, they had a 4th and I guess half a yard. They lined up to go for it. They did the hard count. They got the Vikings to jump into the neutral zone. And the Lions dominated that game. Impressive by the Lions. Coming in with injuries. They played well the week before in San Francisco in that win where they went on the road. They had nothing to play for, but they decided that they were going to go after it, try and win the game, and they played very well. And they springboarded that into the biggest game of the season and a huge game, a huge win for the Lions. The Lions need to be at home. They are so much better at home. They feed off the crowd. They play better at home, indoors, the climate control, the turf, just everything. The Lions need to be home. And it's a bitter pill for the Vikings. Not only did they not play well, they didn't put the ball in the end zone. Sam Darnold didn't look great. The defense wasn't great. Now they got to go play the Rams on the road. And this is a Rams team that is dangerous. They're hot. They're playing well. They came out of nowhere 5-6 weeks ago. You would have never thought the Rams would be in the playoffs. And now they're sitting there with a home game against the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings, who got to go on the road and play, a game that's not going to be easy on Wildcard Weekend. So the way Wildcard Weekend sets up for you, it's Saturday. There's 2 games Saturday, 4:30 and 8, 3 games Sunday, and a game Monday. I hate the Monday. Not going to get into it, but I hate the Monday situation with that team's now going to, they'll obviously play Sunday the next week, but that's a short week. So it's not fair, but, when billions of dollars are thrown your way, you don't really care about fair. So the way it sets up is 4:30 Saturday. You got the Chargers and the Texans right out of the gate. First game. We're going to get into the games in next show. I like the Chargers in this one. I think the Texans are kind of limping in, not playing well. They're surprised that they won the division, and we're going to get into it. Saturday, 8 o'clock, you got the Steelers and the Ravens. The Steelers, there could not be a worse team coming in right now to the playoffs. For losers of 5 in a row, they look terrible. The defense is not playing great. Russell Wilson looks like, kind of the Russell Wilson that we all expected all year. They obviously got off to the hot start. They have cooled down. They haven't played well in about a month and a half. It's going to be a tough ask for the Steelers to go into Baltimore and beat Lamar Jackson and Harbaugh, and in that crowd, in that rivalry, in that environment, to beat the Ravens. The Ravens, everyone's talking about Lamar Jackson and the offense and what he's done, an MVP. Quietly, the Ravens defense has become, perhaps over the last 2 months, the best defense in the National Football League. One of the top defenses in the National Football League. So, and then Sunday, you got 1 o'clock, you got the Bills hosting the Broncos. Tough game for the Broncos. The Bills should advance there. The Bills are looking, they got their eye square on the AFC Championship game in Arrowhead to get the monkey off their back. We'll see. They're going to have to get through the Ravens, though. So the Bills and Broncos, 1 o'clock. Sunday at 4 o'clock, Packers, Eagles, a game where both quarterbacks kind of questionable. Love looks like he's going to be able to go. The Eagles should be okay with their quarterback as long as he gets cleared out of the concussion protocol. And the Sunday at 8 o'clock, there's an 8 o'clock game Sunday night. A very interesting game. Commanders and the Bucks. The Bucks are coming in like they didn't play great last week. Baker's hit or miss. Young quarterback for the Commanders. First time back in the playoffs. That'll be one of the more interesting games of the weekend. And then Monday night, you get the Vikings and the Rams from LA. So right before we go, that's going to pretty much do it for us here today. Some breaking news. The Raiders Antonio Pierce have just fired Antonio Pierce. He is done with the Raiders. So one more casualty of Black Monday on Tuesday. So Black Tuesday. So breaking news, like I said, Antonio Pierce fired as head coach of the Raiders after one season. So that's going to do it for us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Don't forget to, if you have something to say, leave us a voicemail. It's like making a call in. You call up, you record your voicemail. You go to lockedupsports.net/voicemail. You hit record, you record your call, your voicemail. You let us have, question, comment, whatever you got to say. We play it on the air. So that does it for us. Again, we'll be back with Brett, and we got much more to do on these matchups in the Wildcard Weekend. We wanted to kind of summarize everything. Giants, Jets, what they're doing with their coaching wise. The draft, the order is set. The Wildcard Weekend is set, and now it's time for the NFL playoffs. It should be fun. It's always fun. 2 of the best weekends in football coming up in the next 2 weekends. That does it for me. I'm Bob Walters from the Brian Gunzel Studios. See ya.